Next year, we'll be in a different place. I can see us moving in together. We should plan that trip. For a second, you believed it. Your body felt it. Your mind started filling in the details. You pictured the apartment, the photos, the future version of you who finally felt chosen. And then, nothing happened. No plan, no timeline, no real change. Most people miss where the real damage starts. It doesn't start when the person leaves. It starts the moment your brain begins building a future they never had to work for. Future faking usually doesn't begin with big, obvious lies. It starts with simple, low-cost words. A short sentence can create strong emotional certainty without any real commitment behind it. And here's the thing. Your brain doesn't fully separate a real plan from a vivid idea. Just imagining a good future can trigger dopamine, the same reward system that lights up when something good actually happens. So anticipation alone can build attachment. You end up bonding to a picture in your head. Now, each generation learned to use that picture in a different way. Some grew up with strong family pressure and strict social rules. Others leaned into deep talks and emotional language. And right now, younger people are dating in a system where promises are almost free. There's little public commitment, few social consequences, and endless options always in the background. That environment shapes behavior. If you don't realize how cheap future talk has become, you might keep confusing words with real effort. You might keep bonding to imagined futures instead of actual actions. Once you see how each generation learned its own version of future faking, you won't hear "I see a future with you" the same way again. The lie about future faking. Most people think future faking is rare. They picture a clear villain, a narcissist, a smooth talker making big promises on purpose. That belief feels comforting. It makes the problem seem small and extreme, but it's not true. Future faking isn't limited to one type of person. It's a behavior pattern, and it shows up more often than people think. Future faking means giving emotional certainty without behavioral certainty. It's saying, "I can see us moving in together," or "We should travel next summer," or "I want something serious with you," while taking no steady steps toward those things. The words build a shared future. The actions don't support it. Your brain reacts strongly to this. Research shows that anticipation activates the reward system. When someone describes a shared life in detail, your mind starts simulating it. Sometimes, imagining a good future feels even stronger than what's happening right now. And that simulation feels real enough to create attachment. That's why future language builds fast bonds. You invest emotionally before there's any real structure. Here's what people often miss. Each generation grows up with different dating rules. Technology, money, social pressure, and culture all shape how easy it is to make promises and how costly it is to break them. So the real question isn't who lies more. The real question is, in which system do promises require the least proof? When commitment had structure, older generations. In older generations, dating wasn't just personal. It was public. Family, religion, and community were involved. Options were limited. No dating apps, smaller social circles. People often dated within the same town, workplace, or church. So if someone said, "I plan to marry you," that carried weight. Long-term dating without direction was less common. There was also a timeline. By a certain age, marriage was expected. This didn't guarantee healthy love, but it did make false promises more expensive. Future faking still happened. Someone might promise stability while feeling unsure inside. Someone else might agree to a future they didn't truly want because duty mattered more than desire. But the focus was usually on roles: building a home, having children, fulfilling expectations. Not endlessly exploring options. Divorce carried stigma. Breakups were harder to disappear from. If someone talked openly about marriage and then walked away, there were consequences. Reputation damage, family conflict, community judgment, high exit costs changed behavior. Words were more tied to action because people were expected to follow through. Even couples who weren't deeply in love often moved forward in visible ways: engagement, marriage, shared housing. This doesn't mean people were more honest. It means the system made low-effort promises harder. Romantic fantasy was more restrained. The focus stayed practical. So future faking looked different. It wasn't dramatic fantasy. It was quiet misalignment inside rigid roles. The system limited freedom, but it also limited easy escape. Emotional language without clear structure. The Millennials. Millennials entered a different dating world. Emotional awareness grew. Therapy language became normal. Words like boundaries, attachment style, and trauma entered everyday conversations. Being open about feelings was encouraged. In many ways, that was progress. But at the same time, clear timelines weakened. Marriage happened later. Careers felt unstable. Student debt increased. Dating apps expanded options far beyond local communities. Suddenly, you could see hundreds of potential partners with a swipe. That changed everything. When options increase, commitment often slows down. Research shows that too many choices can create anxiety and lower satisfaction. In dating, that means hesitation. People want deep connection, but they also want to keep other options open. So a new pattern formed: strong emotional expression, weak structural clarity. Someone might say, "I've never felt this connected to anyone," while refusing to define the relationship. You could have long talks about compatibility without clear next steps. Deep vulnerability could exist right next to avoidance. Attachment research explains part of this. Some people pull away when things get serious. They feel close, they speak warmly about the future, but when commitment requires sacrifice, they hesitate. Words keep the bond alive. Behavior protects independence. Technology made this easier. Dating apps create the feeling that someone better might always be out there. That quiet awareness lowers the cost of talking about the future. Promises start to feel exploratory, not binding. In this era, future faking often sounds sincere. It's not always planned manipulation. It's emotional expression without firm decision-making. The language gets deeper. The follow-through gets slower. The low-friction era, Gen Z and situationship culture. Gen Z entered a dating world that was already digital. They didn't transition into apps. They started there. Messaging, video calls, disappearing photos, all of that was normal before many had long-term relationship experience. This creates fast intimacy. Two people can share childhood stories, mental health struggles, and personal details within days. It feels deep because it's detailed, but structural commitment doesn't move that fast. That's where the term situationship comes in. It describes ongoing romantic involvement without a clear label. We should travel together. If we're still talking next year, you'd be such a good parent. No formal agreement, just continued interaction. In this setting, future talk becomes casual. These things can be said within weeks, often lightly, sometimes half joking. Humor and irony protect the speaker. If things end, they can say, "I was just joking. Nothing was official." And exits are easy. Blocking, ghosting, muting, slowly fading away. There's usually little explanation. Friend groups are less connected. Reputation damage is small. So the cost of inflated promises drops even more. The key difference isn't always bad intent. Many people mean what they say in the moment, but feelings change. And when future talk isn't tied to public commitment or shared milestones, it carries little weight. In this culture, future faking doesn't feel dramatic. It blends into normal conversation. Emotional expression is instant. Options stay visible. Commitment is optional. So promises become easy to make and easy to withdraw. The real metric: cost of promises. So which generation is worst at future faking? It's not about who's more evil. It's about cost. The generation where promises cost the least will show future faking the most. When emotional words require little sacrifice, they become common. If saying, "I see a future with you," doesn't require public commitment, social integration, or real behavioral change, it's low risk. It can be said during strong emotion and taken back just as easily. Older systems tied promises to reputation and structure. Transitional systems tied them to emotional growth with some expectations. In today's low-friction system, promises can exist almost entirely as words. This doesn't mean people are worse. It means the system rewards verbal intimacy more than steady action. Social exchange theory explains it simply. People weigh reward and cost. If talking about the future brings closeness and validation, and the cost of not following through is low, the behavior spreads. So don't focus on generational blame. Focus on behavioral investment. When someone talks about a future with you, ask yourself, what changes? Does their daily behavior match their long-term words? Consistency over time. Do they introduce you to friends? Do they make plans that require money, blocked time, real effort? Sacrifice is the real test. Public integration is the real test. Future faking grows, and the generation most exposed to it lives in a system where promises are cheap, options are endless, and exits are silent. That system shapes behavior more than personality ever could.